doing? How you guys doing today? Today we are going through chapter 21. And so I don't really have anything to start off with. Nothing. I'll think of something. I got nothing. Amanda's going to be reading first today, and then I'm going to read, so.
Alright. In the Lord's hand, the king's heart is a stream of water that he channels towards all who please him. A person may think their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Haughty eyes and a proud heart, the unplowed field of the wicked produce sin. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. A fortune made by a lying tongue is a fleeting vapor and a deadly snare. The violence of the wicked will drag them away, for they refuse to do what is right. The way of the guilty is devious, but the conduct of the innocent is upright. Better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. The wicked crave evil, their neighbors get no mercy from them. When a mocker is punished, the simple gain wisdom. By paying attention to the wise, they get knowledge. The righteous one takes note of the house of the wicked and brings the wicked to ruin. Whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered. A gift given in secret soothes anger, and a bribe concealed in the cloak pacifies great wrath. When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers. Whoever strays from the path of prudence comes to rest in the company of the dead.
Whoever loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and olive oil will never be rich. The wicked become a ransom for the righteous, and the unfaithful for the upright. Better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and nagging wife. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Whoever pursues righteousness and love finds life, prosperity, and honor. One who is wise can go up against the city of the mighty and pull down the stronghold in which they trust. Those who guard their mouths and tongues keep themselves from calamity. The proud and arrogant person, mocker is his name, behaves with insult fury. The craving of a sluggard will be the death of him, because his hands refuse to work. All day long he craves for more, but the righteous give without sparing. The sacrifice of the wicked is detestable. How much more so when brought with evil intent? A false witness will perish, but a careful listener will testify successfully. The wicked put up a bold front, but the upright give thought to their ways. There is no wisdom, no insight, no plan that can succeed against the Lord. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests with the Lord.
All right. So the verses that I'm focusing on today are 2 and 3. I'm going to read those to you again. A person may think their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. That first part, a person may think their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. When I read that, I was reminded of a spoken word video by Propaganda where he says, even your good acts are an extension of your selfishness. And that was something I remember we watched in Campus Life a couple years ago that we had a big discussion on. But I think it's something that we need to be recognizing on a daily basis. What am I doing these things for? Am I doing it out of a love for God and wanting to share Him with the people around me that so desperately need Him? Or am I just trying to get rid of my guilt like we talked about the other day? Do I just feel like, oh, I need to do something, or I'm a bad Christian, and so we do these things to try to make ourselves feel better. And so I would encourage you to think about some of your actions right now, or after you watch this video, and just think, what am I doing that I'm doing just because I want to feel better about myself, and what am I genuinely doing because I know that the people around me need Jesus? To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Some people who call themselves Christians, they'll give money to a good organization every once in a while and think that that's enough, right? They're making sacrifices. It's not obviously the same kind of sacrifices that were talked about in the Old Testament so much, but a lot of people justify all sorts of sin by saying, oh, I did this good, so now I should be covered, I'm doing all right. Kind of the same kind of mindset as somebody who goes and sins and just asks for forgiveness later. What are you doing in your life? Are you trying to strive to be right and just in everything you do, or are you just planning to make up for it later? We should always be striving to be righteous, to be more and more like Jesus, with every action, every word, every thought. All of it should be glorifying to Him. So just be aware of that as well as you go throughout your day, as you go throughout your life. I know this week in Sunday school we read the story of the widow's mite. She had 2 coins. It was everything that she had, and she gave those up for God. But the people around her who were wealthy and giving more thought that they were better. But they still had plenty left at home, and she was willing to give up those things. Maybe that's not the best example, but those people who gave more thought that since they sacrificed more, that they were better. And that's just not a good place to be in, doing it with a right heart, because God is going to weigh our heart at the end.
Yeah. So I'm doing verse 13, so I'll read it really quick. Whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered. So the first thing that I think is important to point out is that this is an active shutting, right? So it's not, because you got so busy that you just seem to pass over it, but it's that whoever shuts their ears. So this is you actively hearing the cry of the poor and deciding not to do anything about it. And so in the previous Proverbs that we've read, there was Proverbs that talked about consequences or a lifestyle that would lead you to a lifestyle of poverty. But there's also Proverbs like this one that kind of shows the heart of God towards the poor, how He cares for the poor, how He wants to uplift the poor. But also we see throughout Scripture that we are commanded to take care of the poor. We are not suggested to take care of the poor. We are not asked to take care of the poor. We are commanded by God to take care of the poor. Now, I'm going to venture out and maybe go in a different way. You might be thinking wealth. I'm not thinking just wealth. I'm thinking poor in spirit, poor in attitude. We should be able to hear someone's cry. And so we should not shut our ears to them. Another thing that we read is at the end of it, it says that will also cry out and not be answered. So there is a initiative to actually do it. And that is because if you don't, what you ask for is not going to be heard. Think about the classic old thought that we tell people, you reap what you sow. And how true of that in Scripture. Look at the story of the Good Samaritan, right? So the priest passed over, the Levite passed over, but the Good Samaritan stopped. He was, yes, this is a parable and it's speaking in parabolic language. I understand that. But think about the actions that are taken. Clark, he is a commentator on the Bible, but he says this: see the conduct of the priest and Levite to the man who fell among the thieves. And let every man learn from this that he who shuts his ear against the cry of the poor shall have the ear of God shut against his cry. The words are quite plain. There is no difficulty here. So I want you to think about, we talked about it in previous videos, taking care of the poor. And how it can be hard, it can be weird sometimes, but it's not something that you can decide not to do. Well, I guess you can. But God's going to shut his ear to you. That's what Scripture says. That if you decide not to help someone else, but yet cry out to God and say, help me, God. Now, karma, that's a made-up human term from biblical truth. Okay? You reap what you sow. What you sow is what you're going to reap. What you sow into people is what you're going to reap. And so the way you take care of people, the way you take care of God's people, right? It says that Jesus at one point is going to say, what have you done for me? Well, we didn't see you. Well, what about when I was in prison? When I was naked and I needed clothes, right? And they say, Lord, this wasn't you. And he says, whatever you have done for the least of these, you have done for me. When you take care of the poor, when you love the poor in their situation, when you help them physically, spiritually, mentally, whatever it may be, when you help the least of these, it's like you are helping God himself. Not that God needs our help, but what I'm saying is your attitude in which you are taking care of the least of these, you are doing God's work. And so don't shut your ear to the cry of the poor, or God just may shut his ear towards your cry for help. Be careful with that.
Yeah. I mean, we touched on the subject a little bit the other day, but I think it's something that we need to be reminded of. And you said the verses that I was trying to think of the other day. So I'm glad that we talked about it some more. For sure.
It's very important, you guys. I think so. I love talking to people that don't believe in God. I love it because we really get to see the heart of a person, or even Christians that have lacking faith, right? My favorite response when people ask me, like, why doesn't God just step down and take care of all this stuff that's happening in the world, right? We're asking God, why don't you do something? My favorite phrase is, have you ever thought about God asking you the very same question? Why aren't you doing anything about it? Right? Why aren't you doing anything about the abortions in this world? Why aren't you doing anything about the poor in this world? Why are you not doing anything about those that have not heard the gospel of Jesus? Why are you not doing anything about it? You don't want to believe in a God until that God can give you something. And I think that is irrational, irresponsible, and something that we should stay very far away from. God is not a vending machine. And so we should not treat him as such. And so when you ever get this feeling like, God, why are you allowing this to happen? Maybe you should ask yourself, why am I allowing this to happen? Not in the sense of that you can control everything, but why are you allowing it to happen? Let me give you a personal example. You've heard me talk about it before, but I struggle with anxiety. And my question was always to God, why are you allowing this to happen? My new question that I ask about anxiety is, why am I allowing that to shape my view or love of God? Why am I allowing my anxiety to shape my view or my love for God? It's not about God allowing something to happen always. But it's sometimes also about us. Why are we allowing something to happen? Why are we allowing something to shape us? Why are we allowing ourselves to be riddled in sin or drawn to sin all the time? Why are we allowing that? We need God's help. Don't get me wrong. We must depend on God. But there must also be an aspect of you doing something. So, when you cry out to God for help, I'm hoping that you're helping other people. Because if you're pushing others' needs to the side, they don't matter, they don't matter, they don't matter. God, I need your help. That does not make sense. And if me, a human with a small brain, can figure that out, a God that is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good, all-holy, can easily figure that out. So we must not shut our ear to the cries of the poor. And may God help us when we cry out for help.
I think it's easy to be so overwhelmed by how many cries there are, especially in this world where we have so much social media, the news. We see all these things and we think, man, there's so much stuff to do. I wouldn't know where to start. But the thing is that we don't have to help in every situation, but you need to do something. Find something that you're truly passionate about. Take a little bit longer to feel uncomfortable as you hear out those cries and do something about it. Find a way to help. Maybe it's adopting a child through compassion or World Vision. Maybe it's going on a mission trip. Maybe it's reaching out to the homeless in your own community. Maybe it's finding a new way to minister to the widows in your area. But find something and do it. Don't just sweep it under the rug as just another sad thing that you have no control over, because you can do something no matter how old you are. I see stories in the media all the time of young children starting organizations that are benefiting people worldwide. And that's something that you can do. And so just be thinking of different ways that you can be reaching out. Don't just shut your ears to the cry of the poor.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's get out there and let's do something for God this week, today, right now. So thanks for spending some time with us, you guys. We love you. We're praying for you. If you have anything that you want to say, put it in the comments below or reach out to us personally. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.